Hello there, and a very good Friday morning to all our viewers out there. Welcome to the Breakfast Rundown with me, Zulfick Farzan. Today, on the Breakfast Rundown, we are going to delve into some of the key details that took place during the past 24 hours with regard to elections. Well, the Election Commission is set to meet on Wednesday. Now, why? This is to deliberate on the Supreme Court's decision from last afternoon. Now, the Supreme Court yesterday made a landmark ruling with regard to the local government elections. Now, the chairman of the Election Commission, RMA said that appropriate measures will be taken with regard to the local government elections after the Commission and its members meet on Wednesday morning next week. Now, just to recap of what happened yesterday, in a landmark decision, the Supreme Court of Sri Lanka ruled that the failure to hold the local government elections that were scheduled to take place in 2023 had violated the fundamental rights of the people. Now, the Supreme Court added that the impugned acts and omissions of the President, who is also the Minister of Finance, resulted in the infringement of fundamental rights due to arbitrary and unlawful conduct, which resulted in the non-holding of the local government elections in 2023. Now, the Supreme Court's ruling also said that the impugned acts and omissions of the chairman and the members of the Election Commission who held office at that time had also infringed on the fundamental rights of the people. Now, who are these members according to the Supreme Court ruling? According to that document, they are Nimal Punchi Hewa, S.B. Diwaratna, M.M. Mohammed, K.P. Patiwana and P.S.M. Charles. Now, the Supreme Court in its ruling yesterday acknowledged that a severe economic crisis was faced by the country. Now, that was a reason cited by the respondents in the petitions that were filed challenging the non-holding of the local government election. However, the Supreme Court has said that the economic difficulties did not absolve the state of its responsibility of upholding the fundamental rights of the people of Sri Lanka. Now, the court also held that the Election Commission had failed to properly plan and manage the election process, and the Commission did not exercise its powers to issue necessary directions to secure the cooperation of other state agencies. Now, many factions have cited this ruling by the Supreme Court last afternoon as a landmark and historic decision in Sri Lanka with regard to the elections. Now, will this court ruling affect the upcoming presidential election? Now, you are aware that on the 21st of September, Sri Lankans will go to polls to elect their next executive president, the next president who will control or govern the country for the next 5 years. Now, Mahinda Deshapriya is the former chairman of the National Election Commission. Now, speaking to reporters following the Supreme Court ruling yesterday, Mahinda Deshapriya commented on this process of delaying the local government elections. Now, according to Mahinda Deshapriya, the Supreme Court has on many previous occasions pointed out that delaying or not holding the elections or any form of elections is a violation of the fundamental rights of the people. Now, Deshapriya described yesterday's Supreme Court ruling as justice being delivered, however, with a delay. Now, he said, if the court ruling was made somewhere earlier in the year or somewhere in the first quarter of this year, the local government elections could have been held and concluded as well. Now, he said that there is no possibility for the local government elections to be held ahead of the presidential election, that's in September. However, he said it is feasible for the Election Commission to call for the local government elections after the conclusion of the presidential election on the 21st of September. Now, he says there is a possibility to conclude that election as well before the end of the year. Now, President Ranil, who was implicated in this Supreme Court ruling, or the Supreme Court ruling had said that the actions of the Minister of Finance at that time had also impugned on the fundamental rights of the people by the non-holding of the presidential election. Now, President Ranil is the finance minister as well. Now, he's acknowledged that the postponing of the local government elections is a violation of the citizens' basic rights. However, he stated that he does not regret his decision, as the time was dedicated to ensuring the people's right to live and maintaining the safety of the people. Now, President Ranil emphasized his respect for both the right to vote and the right to live. Now, the President also noted that every hour was crucial in the effort to stabilize the country's economy. He also explained that he had devoted that time to conducting, he said that had he devoted his time to conduct the local government elections at that time, achieving economic stability would have not been possible. He said it would have been difficult to achieve economic stability had he devoted his time for the local government election at that time. Now, where did he make these remarks? He was speaking at the conference of the National New People's Front, or the NPF, held in Maharagama last evening. Now, he also highlighted that the people cannot maintain their day-to-day lives without essentials such as cooking gas, medicine, food and fuel. Now, President Ranil also affirmed that over the past 2 years, he has been dedicated to safeguarding the basic rights of the people, and stated that he will continue to make necessary decisions to protect these rights in the future as well. Now, he also went on to note that the decision has already been made to hold the general election after the presidential election in September. Now, he said that the necessary funds for these elections have already been secured. Now, he also went on to note that after the presidential election comes the general election, and after the general election comes the provincial council elections, and thereafter what is scheduled is the local government elections. Now, a presidential candidate running for office this year is opposition leader and leader of the Samagi Jana Balawegaya, Sajith Premadasa. Now, speaking to a gathering of supporters yesterday, Sajith Premadasa said that legal action will be taken against those who violated the voting rights of the people. Now, he's also the opposition leader of the country, and he expressed the stance that they had taken as the opposition was correct, demanding for the rights of the people to be upheld. Now, Premadasa also criticized those who neglected the rights of the people and turned the country into a place of deals and undermined public welfare. Now, Sajith Premadasa assured the public that the 22 million people of Sri Lanka are eagerly awaiting for the formation of a new government that will prioritize the welfare of the nation, and he said such a government will be established when he is elected as president of the country. Now, another presidential candidate is Anura Kumara. Now, he is the leader of the National People's Power. Now, he has raised serious concerns with regard to the political state of the country. Now, speaking to a gathering of supporters, Anura Kumara pointed out that how can a country whose president has been implicated by the Supreme Court for violating the fundamental rights of the people be recognized? Dissanayake questioned the current state of the nation, highlighting that there is rising crime and the failure to uphold the law. He said that both the people and the rulers should be law-abiding, and if the country is not law-abiding, there are challenges in having that country be recognized internationally. Now, he further criticized the credibility of the nation when its own president is implicated by the Supreme Court, and when the members of parliament or majority of members of parliament are also considered to be involved in criminal activity or have criminal backgrounds. So he said that it is important for the country to be law-abiding, for it to be recognized internationally. Now, when we speak of elections, one of the most crucial points is the monitoring of elections. Now, the National Election Commission has announced that representatives from 12 countries will be in Sri Lanka to monitor the election process. Now, Chairman R.M.A.L. Ratnayake, speaking to Newsfirst, said that countries such as India, Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan and the Maldives will be sending their delegates to Sri Lanka to monitor the presidential election. Now, they will not be here only on election day, but they will be here before election day. So they will be monitoring that entire period or during the run-up to the election and also the post-election period as well. Now, the chairman of the Election Commission said that following their duties, these election observer organizations or observers will be handing in a comprehensive report to the National Election Commission. Now, additionally, observers from the European Union have already arrived in Sri Lanka with their chief observer. Now, he also said that the Commonwealth election monitors as well as the Asian Election Observation Network will also be monitoring Sri Lanka's presidential poll. Now, the Election Commission has granted permission to these election monitoring agencies and organizations to engage in election monitoring in Sri Lanka. Now, at the same time, there is a spike in complaints with regard to the presidential election. Now, the Election Commission says that it has received a total of 771 election complaints. Now, a majority of these complaints, or 747 of these complaints, relate to the violation of election laws. Now, the Election Commission also said that one complaint was received with regard to an act of violence. Now, at the same time, election monitoring organizations are also raising concern over the misuse of state property for election propaganda activity. Now, Rohan Hettiarachchi from PAFREL, that's the People's Action for a Free and Fair Election, has said that their organization documented 228 complaints related to the upcoming presidential election. Now, at the same time, Manjula Gajanayaka, who is also the head of the Institute for Democratic Reforms and Election Studies, said that his organization received around 150 complaints with regard to the presidential election. Now, on a more somber note, one of the presidential candidates running for this year's presidential election unfortunately passed away last night. Now, this election candidate, Mohammad Ilyas, who is an independent presidential candidate, succumbed to a heart attack at the age of 78 last night. Now, he is one of the 39, he was in fact one of the 39 candidates who was running for office. Now, at the same time, something interesting happened yesterday. Last night, the President's Media Division issued a statement with regard to the government's salaries, or the government sector employees' salaries. Now, according to this statement, the chairman of the Expert Committee on Public Service Salary Disparities, Udaya R. Senaviratne, has said that the basic salary of public service employees will be increased by a minimum of 24% for primary level service categories. Now, for all government sector officials, salaries will gradually increase from an average of 24% to 50%, depending on the current fiscal stability, and this will be implemented from next year. Now, the chairman of this committee, Senaviratne, has said that the prevailing inflation and economic conditions and the cost of living allowance of 25,000 rupees will remain unchanged for 3 years and will be provided to all government employees for 3 consecutive years starting from January 2025, with 2025 being the base year. Now, Udaya R. Senaviratne said that regardless of which government is in power, there is a pressing need to increase the salaries of the public sector employees. Now, these proposals have been made to address and eliminate salary disparities, taking into account past trade union protests within the public service. Now, accordingly, the proposals have received both the approval from the Cabinet and the Treasury. Now, moving on to something that's impacting many regions or many countries in the world is the rising and escalating tensions in the Middle East. Now, there was from October last year, following the attack on Israel by Hamas and then counterattacks by Israel into Gaza, hostilities in the region have increased, with more than 30,000 people in Palestine alone being killed by Israeli strikes. Now, the Sri Lankan embassy in Israel has issued a safety warning for the Sri Lankans who are working over there. Now, the Sri Lankan embassy is urging these Sri Lankans to prioritize their safety in the upcoming days, given the rising tensions in the Middle East. Now, the Sri Lankan ambassador to Israel, Nimal Bandara, emphasized the importance of constant vigilance by the Sri Lankan community living over there, and urged them not to leave their workplaces unless it is absolutely necessary. Now, he also said that it is advised for the Sri Lankans living in Israel and working in Israel to stockpile on some of their essentials like medicine, food, water for a few days, given the tensions in the Middle East. He also said that there are certain safety booths that are set up at workplaces in Israel, and these Sri Lankans who are living there could use those locations for their own safety. Now, what about the relatives of these people who are working in Israel? Now, the Sri Lankan ambassador to Israel has said that relatives living in Sri Lanka should not worry about those who are working in Israel, because he is in constant touch with these expatriate workers and he is prioritizing their safety. Now, currently there are more than 11,000 Sri Lankans who are working in Israel in various fields. Now, we too at Newsfirst are monitoring the developments that are taking place in the Middle East, given the tensions between the two powerhouses in the region, mainly Iran and Israel, and also other factions that are involved in this conflict, that's Hamas from Palestine and also Hezbollah from Lebanon. Now, you might be wondering, is the rainy season over? Well, I'm here to tell you that it's not 100% over. Well, there are going to be showers or thunder showers in the western, Sabaragamuwa, northwestern provinces and the Kandy, Nuwara area and Galle and Matara districts. Now, the Met Department is saying that strong winds about 30 to 40 kilometers an hour can be expected at times in the western slopes and the central hills as well. Well, as usual, we will also like to warn our viewers to take precautions when there is lightning. So what you can do is stay indoors and unplug all those electrical appliances to ensure that you are safe from lightning strikes. Well, if it's absolutely unnecessary, do not move out of the house during lightning strikes as well. Well, that brings an end to this morning's edition of the Breakfast Rundown. Until next time, take care and God bless.